Alrighty, folks, we improved to 4-0 in our last 4 college basketball tier package plays on my premium page yesterday. We had George Washington -3 on Wednesday, and they took care of Fordham by 23 points. They actually held the Rams to just 58 in that blowout winner. And the good news is I've got another college basketball tier package play going off for Thursday. That play's already posted and ready for access in the post section on my premium page. Of course, if you sign up for that college basketball package, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. Of course, if you don't need access to all those premium plays, but maybe you could use like one a day, my daily best play package costs just 6 cents a day for 30 days worth of access. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my free pick video here today for Thursday, March 6th, 2025. Happy Thursday to you. Weekend's right around the corner. We are just about there. And of course, if you're joining me for the first time here today, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. Of course, if you're on the fence about signing up for a package, maybe a little bit skeptical, I certainly don't blame you. This is a bit of a skeezy racket that I'm in. Not saying that I'm skeezy, but just the industry as a whole. Not overly trustworthy. But if you're on the fence, I do have plenty of free content on my premium page as well. Content you can access without having to pay anything. That includes my current overall win-loss record in every single package. Don't have to pay to see that. It's available in the post section. All you got to do is scroll down. I currently have over 2,125 members who are signed up and active on my premium page right now. With that, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. Going to start off with an early game. Indiana State taking on Southern Illinois. 1 o'clock Eastern tip-off in the Enterprise Center. Indiana State's -1, totals 157. Now the Sycamores are 14-17 on the year, 4-9 straight up away from their home court. I realize this is a neutral site matchup, but they have not been great away from home. Now, when it comes to defensive play, Indiana State, they allow nearly 80 points a game, 322nd in field goals allowed, and they're facing a Southern Illinois squad who's got a handful of guys who can get to the basket. Ali Dibba, he's averaging over 16.5 points a game. Kennard Davis gets 16 a night himself. And as a team, the Salukis have done a nice job grabbing boards on both ends of the floor. I like Southern Illinois +1. Give me the Salukis and the over 157. All right, next matchup. Some more conference championship action. Missouri State taking on Illinois State, 3:30 Eastern tip-off. And yep, you guessed it, the Enterprise Center. Illinois State's -5, totals 131.5. The Redbirds are 18-13 on the year, winners of 3 out of their last 4. Illinois State's one of the better shooting teams in the Missouri Valley Conference. They're 33rd in offensive field goal percentage, double-digit 3 balls a game. Chase Walker is averaging 15 points per contest, 58% from the field. And Johnny Kinzinger makes nearly 40% of his long balls, 15 points a night for him. And they're taking on a Missouri State team who's 9-22 overall, 1-12 away from home. And when it comes to defensive play, the Bears rank 326th in defensive field goal percentage. And the Missouri State saw overs recently versus Drake, Murray State, and this very Illinois State team. Meanwhile, Redbird games went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. I like Illinois State -5, over 131.5. Next contest, San Diego taking on Pacific, 5:30 p.m. East. Pacific's -1, totals 145. The Tigers are led by Canadian Elijah Fisher, who's averaging 15 points a game, 49% from the field. And Elias Ralph, he's scoring over 14.5 points a game, 7 rebounds a night. That is the Eli connection there. Now they're facing a 5-26 San Diego team who has not won a ball game away from their own building this year. The Toreros are averaging just 69 points a night, and they're definitely having a tough time shooting the long ball. San Diego makes just 28% of their 3 balls, bottom 5 in the country in that category. Now, San Diego saw unders recently versus San Francisco, Loyola Marymount, and this very Pacific team. Meanwhile, Tiger Games went 60% to the under in their last 10. Give me Pacific -1, under 145. Next game, Evansville taking on Murray State, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in the Enterprise Center. Murray State's -5.5, totals 130 and a hook. The Racers saw unders in 5 out of their last 8, 321st in field goals made per game. Meanwhile, Evansville saw unders recently versus Illinois State, Missouri State, and Southern Illinois. They're averaging only 66 points per contest themselves. Give me the under 130 and a half. Next game, Lafayette taking on Americans, 7 o'clock East. Americans -4, totals 129 and a half. Now, the Eagles did fail to cover in 6 out of their last 9. Definitely struggling on the offensive end of the floor. American averages only 68 points a game, bottom 25 in offensive rebounds. And they're facing a Lafayette school who's definitely tough to score points against. The Leopards are allowing only 68 points a game. They really don't send a ton of shooters to the foul line either. Lafayette saw unders in 5 out of their last 9, excluding that Boston U matchup. Meanwhile, American Games went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I like Lafayette +4, under 129 and a half. Next game, Jacksonville, North Alabama, 7 o'clock East. North Alabama is -5.5. Total is 143. Thought that one was on here. I guess not. But anyway, once again, North Alabama is -5.5. Total's 143. Now, the Lions are 23-9 on the year, 15-1 as the home team. Meanwhile, Jacksonville has a losing record against the point spread this year, 7-8 away from home. The Dolphins have certainly had some issues from the foul line. They're averaging only 11 made free throws a game, 67% from the stripe. And they're taking on a North Alabama squad who really, they don't send a ton of shooters to the foul line themselves. The Lions are currently 18th in the country in free throws allowed, limiting opposing shooters to just 31% from three-land. Now, North Alabama Games went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. Jacksonville saw unders in 5 out of their last 9 themselves. I like North Alabama -5.5, under 143. All right, next game, PFW taking on Youngstown State. That'll be a 7 o'clock Eastern tip. YSU's -2, totals 156. Now, Youngstown's 19-12 on the year, 9-5 straight up at home. Meanwhile, PFW 19-12 themselves, but just 6-9 on the road. And more recently, the Mastodons dropped 4 out of their last 5 games, averaging just 67 points per contest in those losses. When it comes to grabbing rebounds, PFW is in the bottom 20 in offensive boards per game. Now, they're facing a Youngstown team who won 7 out of their last 10 themselves. They're 13th in the country in blocks on defense. They're also pretty tough against the deep ball. The Penguins are allowing only 6 made three-pointers a game. Now, when it comes to the total, PFW saw unders in 3 out of their last 4. Unders against Cleveland State, Oakland, and Robert Morris. I like Youngstown State -2, under 156. Next matchup, Niagara taking on St. Peter's. That'll be a 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. St. Pete's is -5, totals 128.5. The Peacocks are 11-15 on the year, just 500 basketball at home. The The Peacocks are averaging only 65 points a game this year, 39% shooting from the field. They're actually in the bottom 5 in the country in offensive field goal percentage. They're facing a Niagara team who's covered recently versus Marist, Quinnipiac, and Merrimack. The Purple Eagles do rebound well on D, and they really don't put a lot of shooters to the stripe. Now, 5 out of Niagara's last 9 did stay under the line. St. Pete saw unders recently versus Marist, Quinnipiac, and Mount St. Mary's. I like Niagara +5, under 128.5. Next contest, Sacred Heart, Manhattan, 7 o'clock East. Manhattan's -2, totals 155. The Jaspers are 15-12 on the year, 63% against the point spread. They've done a nice job of covering this season. And more recently, the Jaspers got the W in 7 out of their last 10. They're limiting opposing shooters to just 33% from beyond the arc. Manhattan also does a nice job staying out of foul trouble. They're facing a Sacred Heart team who really doesn't get much to the line themselves. They're 315th in free throw attempts per game. When it comes to defensive play, the Pioneers are allowing nearly 76 points per contest, bottom 20 in 3 balls allowed. Now, oddly enough, 5 out of Sacred Heart's last 9 did fall under the line. Manhattan 5-4 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I like Manhattan -2, under 155. Next game, Mount St. Mary's taking on Quinnipiac, 7 o'clock East. Quinnipiac's -8.5, totals 152. The Bobcats saw unders in their last 3 straight. Unders against Merrimack, St. Pete's, and Manhattan. They're in the top 25 in blocks on defense, limiting opposing teams to just 41% from the field. They're facing a Mount St. Mary's squad who saw unders in 6 out of their last 10, holding opposing teams to just 41% from the field themselves. I like the under 152. All right, next game, Canisius taking on Riders, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. Riders -7.5. Total is 142. The Bronx are just 11-18 on the year, 3-7 at home. Riders currently 312th in defensive turnovers, allowing nearly double-digit 3 balls a game. And they're facing a Canisius squad who shoots 75% from the foul line, top 40 in shooting from beyond the arc. Paul McMillan averages 20 points a game. Tana Cope is 42% from 3-land, 13 points a night for him. When it comes to covering the number, the Golden Griffins did cover in 4 out of their last 5. Now, they also saw overs in 3 out of those 5 games. Rider contest went 7-2 to the over in their last 9. I like Canisius +7.5, over 142. All right, next contest. Tulane taking on East Carolina, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. ECU's -4, totals 145.5. The Pirates are 17-12, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. Meanwhile, Tulane 17-12 themselves, winners of 7 out of their last 10. The Green Wave limits their competition to just 69 points a game, 40th in blocks. They're also holding opposing shooters to just 40% from the field. And they're taking on an ECU squad who failed to cover in 6 out of their last 8. Just 31% from outside the perimeter. ECU saw unders recently versus Rice and South Florida. Meanwhile, Tulane saw unders recently versus Texas San Antonio and Memphis. Give me Tulane +4, under 145.5. Next matchup, Florida Atlantic taking on UAB, 7 o'clock Eastern tip. UAB's -5, totals 164. UAB is 19-10 on the year, 13-4 as the home team. FAU playing just 500 basketball on the road, 39% against the point spread. And more recently, the Owls failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6. Bottom 10 in guarding the 3 ball. And no real shock here, folks. The Owls are giving up 76 points per contest. They're taking on the 13th highest point producing school in UAB. 83 points a game for the Blazers, fourth in field goals made. Yaxel Lendeborg averages 17 points a game. Alejandro Vasquez shoots 89% from the stripe. Blazer contest went 60% to the over in their last 10. FAU saw overs recently versus Temple, Charlotte, and Texas San Antonio. I like UAB -5 over 164. All right, moving out of that 7 o'clock slate, we're going to take a look at Norfolk taking on Howard. That's going to be a 7:30 Eastern tip. Norfolk State's -4, totals 156. Now, Norfolk's 20-10 on the year, covering in nearly 60% of their games. Meanwhile, Howard's just 12-18 themselves, losing record against the point spread. More recently, the Bisons are on a 3-game skid, giving up nearly 80 points a game for the year. And a big problem for Howard has been fouls. They're in the bottom 5 in free throws allowed per contest. And good news for Norfolk because the Spartans do a nice job getting to the stripe themselves. Top 35 in free throws made, 11th in shooting from the field. Christian Ings drills 50% of his 3 balls, double-digit points a game. And Brian Moore Jr. averages over 18.5 points a night himself, 43% from long range. Both teams saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, respectively. I like Norfolk State -4 over 156. Next contest, UTEP, Sam Houston, 7:30 p.m. East. Sam Houston's -2, totals 145. The Bearcats are 7-4 at home. UTEP just 4-6 on the road. The Miners are currently on a 5-game skid. 78 points a game they allowed during that span. And when it comes to foul trouble, the Miners are just putting way too many shooters to the line. They're allowing nearly 16 free throws a game on D. And they're taking on a Sam Houston squad who has little problems getting on the scoreboard themselves. Bearcats are averaging nearly 76 points a game, 9th in the country in shooting the long ball. Lamar Wilkerson's 44% from 3-land, 19 points a game. And Cameron Hefner is averaging over 13.5 points a game himself, 81% from the foul line. Bearcats saw overs recently versus Louisiana Tech, Kennesaw, and Florida International. Meanwhile, UTEP saw overs in their last 5 straight. I like Sam Houston -2 over 145. All right, next matchup, New Mexico State, Louisiana Tech, 7:30 p.m. East. LT's -5, totals 134. The Bulldogs are 19-10 on the year, 10-3 straight up at home. They're also covering in 63% of their contests this year. Meanwhile, New Mexico State, 16-13 themselves, losing record against the point spread. When it comes to offensive production, the Aggies are averaging just 69 points a game, 41% from the field. They're taking on a Bulldog team who's tough to score points against. They're giving up just 68 points a game, 41st in defensive boards. Now, Louisiana Tech saw unders recently versus Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, and Liberty. Meanwhile, New Mexico State games went 9-1 to the under in their last 10. Give me La Tech -5, under 134. All right, next contest, 8 o'clock slate, talking about Wright State squaring off against Robert Morris, 8 o'clock East. RMU's -6.5, totals 150. And listen, RMU is one of the hottest teams in the country right now. These guys are playing absolutely lights out. Not much they do wrong. This is a really good basketball team. But as dominant as the Colonials have been, they have been sloppy with the basketball at times. These guys are currently 308th in offensive turnovers per game. And I'll tell you, they're facing a Wright State team who's got little problems getting to the rack. They're making nearly 50% of their field goals, 13th in the country in shooting the long ball. Keaton Norris is shooting 44% from 3-land. Logan Woods, 47% from long range himself. And those guys aren't even leading the team in points. That's Brandon Noel, who's averaging nearly 20 points per contest. Wright State saw overs in their last 4 straight, 6-1 to the over in their last 7. Meanwhile, Robert Morris saw overs recently versus Green Bay, Northern Kentucky, and Oakland. I like Wright State plus 6.5 over 150. Next matchup, NKU taking on Cleveland State, 8 o'clock East. Cleveland's -4, totals 137. The Vikes are 20-11 on the year, 13-4 at home. Northern Kentucky 17-15 themselves, just 5-9 on the road. The Norse are also covering in just 36% of their games. Now, NKU's allowing nearly double-digit 3 balls per contest, bottom 25 in defensive 3-point percentage. And they're taking on a Cleveland State squad who's led by Tevin Smith, who's averaging over 13.5 points a game. Dylan Arnett is getting double-digit points a night himself, 63% from the field. Cleveland State saw overs against Wright State, Oakland, and this very Northern Kentucky team. That contest saw 160 total points. Meanwhile, NKU contest went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. I like Cleveland State -4 over 137. Next matchup, Jackson State taking on Arkansas Pine Bluff. That'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern tip. Doesn't look like that is on our big screen unless I skipped it. Do not see it. But anyway, Jackson State is -8.5. Totals 153. The Tigers are 12-17 on the year, 4-15 away from home. The Tigers are making just 6 3 balls a game, 41% from the field. And they're facing a Pine Bluff team who got the W in 2 out of their last 3, covered twice during that span. Dante Sawyer averages nearly double-digit points a game for the Golden Lions, 50% from the field. And Quentin Bolton's shooting 42% from long range. Pine Bluff saw overs recently versus Mississippi Valley State, Grambling, and this very Jackson State team. That contest saw 172 total points. Jackson State games went 6-2 to the over in their last 8. I like Arkansas Pine Bluff plus 8.5 over 153. Next game, Morgan State, Coppin State, 8 o'clock East. Morgan State's -4, totals 149. Morgan's covering in 60% of their games this year. Coppin's just 5-23 overall, losing record against the point spread. Of course, more recently, the Eagles lost 7 out of their last 9. They're in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage. And that's certainly good news for Morgan State because these guys love getting to the cup. They're averaging 80 points a game, 10th in field goals. Winston Tabbs averages 15 points a game, 90% from the foul line. And Cam Hobbs, he's scoring over 15.5 points per contest himself, 85% from the stripe. Now, Morgan State games went 4-3 to the over in their last 7. Coppin State saw overs recently versus South Carolina State and Delaware State twice. Give me Morgan State -4 over 149. Next game, Michigan State, Iowa, 8 o'clock East. Michigan State's -7, totals 151.5. And both teams with the ability to get to the basket. Sparty's averaging 78 points a game, 7th in offensive rebounds. Jaden Akins with 12 points a game. Jace Richardson nearly 40% from 3-land. Iowa saw overs versus Washington, Maryland, and Purdue. 30th in offensive 3-point percentage. Dixon Thelwell shoot over 42% from long range. Peyton Sanford with 16 points per contest. I like the over, 151.5. Next matchup, Wichita State taking on Rice, 8 o'clock East. Rice is -1, totals 144.5. The Owls are 13-17 on the year. Wichita 17-12. And more recently, the Shockers got the W in 6 out of their last 8. Doing a nice job staying out of foul trouble. They're currently 32nd in free throws allowed. And as a matter of fact, their opponents are making just 66% of their foul shots against them. They're taking on a Rice team who shoots just 68% from the line, 338th in field goals made. Rice saw unders versus Texas San Antonio, Tulsa, and East Carolina. Wichita games went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. I like Wichita State +1, under 144.5. Next game, Utah Valley, Abilene Christian, 8 o'clock East. Utah Valley is -3, totals 138. The Wolverines are 21-7 on the year, 63% against the point spread. Abilene Christian, 15-14 themselves, losing record against the number. The Wildcats are sending way too many people to the foul line. They're actually in the bottom 10 in the country in free throws given up per game. They're taking on a Utah Valley team who's actually gotten the W in 9 out of their last 10. Top 30 in offensive rebounds. Carter Welling has 155 boards on the year, dozen points a game. Dominic Nelson averages 15 points per contest. Now, Utah Valley games went 4-2 to the over in their last 6. Overs against the likes of Southern Utah, Tarleton, and Texas San Antonio. I like Utah Valley -3 over 138. Next game, Valparaiso, Illinois, Chicago, 9:30, Enterprise Center. Illinois, Chicago is -4.5, totals 150. The Flames are 17-13 on the year, winning record away from home. Meanwhile, Valpo's 13-18 themselves, 3-10 away from home as well. More recently, the Beacons dropped 7 out of their last 10, covered the number in only 30% of those games. The Beacons are allowing over 75 points per contest, 325th in defensive field goal percentage. They're facing a UIC team who's averaging 77 points a night themselves. Phil Skobaj, he's shooting 40% from three land, 19 of 20 from the foul line. Meanwhile, Ahmad Henderson averages double-digit points a game, 90% from the stripe himself. Illinois Chicago saw overs recently versus Evansville, Illinois State, Indiana State. Meanwhile, Valpo saw overs in 3 out of their last 5, throwing out that Bradley game. I like UIC -4.5 over 150. All right, next and final breakdown in college basketball. Hawaii, Cal State Bakersfield, 9:30 p.m. East. Bakersfield's -1, totals 141. The Roadrunners are 8-6 at home. Hawaii 2-7 on the road. And more recently, the Rainbow Warriors dropped 7 out of their last 10. Definitely having a tough time shooting the basketball. Hawaii makes only 6 3-pointers a game, 317th in field goals. And they're facing a Cal State Bakersfield squad who got the W in 3 out of their last 5, doing a nice job of rebounding on defense. They're a top 25 defensive rebounding team. Meanwhile, on the offensive end, the Roadrunners are 16th in offensive three-point percentage. Marvin McGee makes 48% of his long balls. Jamel Jones over 17.5 points a game. Cal State Bakersfield saw overs in 4 out of their last 5. Hawaii saw overs against UC Davis, UC Riverside, and UC Santa Barbara. I like Cal State Bakersfield -1 over 141. And with that, we're going to jump into some NBA action. Bulls, Magic, 7 o'clock East. Orlando, 7.5, totals 219. The Magic saw overs recently with Toronto, Golden State, and San Antonio. When it comes to guarding the deep ball, they're 24th in defensive three-point percentage. Meanwhile, the Bulls, on the other side, their games went 60% to the over in their last 10. Overs against Cleveland, Toronto, and the Clippers. They're in the bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage themselves. I like the over 219. Next matchup, Warriors-Nets, 7:30 p.m. East. Golden State's -10, totals 224. The Warriors are 6 games over 500, winning record against the point spread. Brooklyn just 21-40 themselves, 9-20 in the Barclays Center. The Nets are currently on a 5-game skid. They gave up 120 points a game on average during that time frame. And I'll tell you, that's not overly surprising. Brooklyn's in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage. They're taking on a Golden State squad who's 4th in 3 balls made, 3rd in offensive boards. Steph Curry scores 24 points a game, 40% from downtown. Jimmy Butler's averaging 16 points a night with his new team. Warrior games went 4-3 to the over in their last 7. Brooklyn saw overs versus San Antonio, Portland, and Oklahoma City. I like the Warriors -10 over 224. Next game, Sixers Celtics, 7:30 p.m. East. Boston's -14, totals 223. The Celtics are 44-18 on the year, 20-11 in the Garden. Meanwhile, Philadelphia 19 games under 500, 10-19 on the road. Philly dropped 9 out of their last 10, failed to cover in all of those games except for 2. And on the defensive end, the Sixers are currently dead last in defensive field goal percentage, bottom 5 in defending the 3-ball. They're taking on a Boston team who makes more 3 balls a game than any other team. They're actually splashing 18 shots a game from beyond the perimeter. Peyton Pritchard's 41% from 3-land, 13 points a game off the bench. And Jaylen Brown scoring 23 points per contest himself. Boston saw overs recently versus the Blazers, Cavaliers, and this very Philly team. That game saw 228 total points. Philadelphia saw overs recently versus Minnesota, Golden State, and Chicago. I like the Celtics -14, over 223. Next matchup, Rockets-Pelicans, 8 o'clock East. Houston's -5, totals 228.5. The Rockets are a dozen games over 500, winning record against the point spread. New Orleans 17-45 themselves, losing record at home. The Pels are a bottom 10 point producing lineup, 23rd in offensive boards. Meanwhile, Houston's a top 10 defensive rebounding team themselves, 2nd in 3 balls allowed. Houston's limiting opposing shooters to just a dozen 3 balls a game. Now, Houston contests went 60% to the under in their last 10. Pelicans saw unders recently versus the Spurs, Mavericks, and Kings. I like Houston -5, under 228.5. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Knicks-Lakers, 10 o'clock East. The Lakers are -3.5, totals 228. The Lakers saw overs recently versus the Pelicans and Jazz. They're currently 6th in shooting from the field, 2nd in free throws made. Meanwhile, New York on the other side saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out that Golden State matchup. The Knicks are currently 3rd in shooting from the field, 5th in shooting from the stripe. I like the over 228. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Southern Illinois +8. Let's try that again. We're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Southern Illinois +1 over 157. Illinois State -5 over 131.5. We're 4-0 in our last 4 college basketball tier package plays on my premium page. Pacific -1 under 145, under 130.5 in that Evansville-Murray State matchup. Lafayette +4 under 129.5. North Alabama -5.5 under 143. Youngstown State -2 under 156. Niagara +5 under 128.5. Manhattan -2 under 155. I like the under 152 in that Mount St. Mary's Quinnipiac matchup. Canisius +7.5 over 142. Tulane +4 under 145.5. UAB -5 over 164. Norfolk State -4 over 156. Sam Houston -2 over 145. Louisiana Tech -5 under 134. Wright State +6.5 over 150. Cleveland State -4 over 137. Arkansas Pine Bluff +8.5 over 153. Morgan State -4 over 149. I like the over 151.5 in that Michigan State-Iowa matchup. Wichita State +1 under 144.5. Utah Valley -3 over 138. Illinois Chicago -4.5 over 150. Cal State Bakersfield -1 over 141. NBA over 219 in that Bulls Magic game. Warriors -10 over 224. Celtics -14 over 223. Rockets -5 under 228.5. And give me the over 228 in that Knicks-Lakers matchup. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, folks, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.